Onboard, but he used to be founder of Bundle, Nestcoin, Microtraction. It's been on board now a wallet for the borderless generation, helping creators, freelancers access USD and stablecoins seamlessly. Next up, we have Yele, another Yele. It's going to be hard. Maybe we say Yele 1, Yele 2. I don't know. I don't know. Have you guys ever been in the room together, and how do you guys distinguish yourself? I don't know. But Yele W or Yele Oyekola of Duplo. Really blends policy, product, and a few others. He has been experienced of the UN to carbon, where he was again working in the lending space, to founding Duplo, which automates B2B trade and supply chains payments across Africa. And last but not least, we definitely have Segun Adeyemi, who is actually an exited founder. So Segun has built Amplify, exited that, and now building Anchor. I guess maybe one time pain is not enough. We have to go for it again. And so it's building banking as a service platform, helping others embed banking features through APIs. And so I feel like it was like, okay, wait, what's the thread that cuts across all these three founders? And I was like, these three founders have a shared DNA in the sense that they not just building products, but actually infrastructure for a borderless Africa. If you think about Segun's work, is like a core API and compliance layer. Yele's work with B2B trade and payments, operation layers, and then Yele looking at again end user wallet and cross-border UX layers. It's like, okay, wait, it's like a full value chain, fintech value chain here, from infrastructure to tools to user-facing products. And I was like, that's really phenomenal. So great to have you guys. Thanks for joining us. And so let's dive in starting to what made each of you decide to build again. So we'll go through a first set of questions, just setting the stage to help audience understand each of your journeys. So Yele, we'll start with you. Onboard, you've gone from, again, Bundle, Nestcoin, and now Onboard. What's the true line connecting all three, and what problem are you still obsessed with solving?
All right. So I think to make your life easier, you can call me YB, like my initial.
Thank you.
The first time you said Yele and we were speaking about YO, I was like, is that me again? So it's good to connect.
Yeah.
It's great that we've not been on a call before, but so hi everyone, I'm Yele, so to answer the question directly in terms of like what through line connects all three, I think for me it's stablecoin and on-chain technology. So actually Onboard is still Nestcoin, right? So when we founded Nestcoin, it was a holding company that was investing and incubating in Web3 companies. That was what we used to call it back then. And over the years, post FTX, which was, an insane story in 2022, we decided to sort of scale down the amount of things we were doing, and then spun out one of our businesses. MDM is in the gaming space. They raised about $3 million. And then we just focused on the financial services side of our business. But fundamentally, like the core thing for me has always been about equalizing access, opportunities, regardless of where someone is based. And been very early in the stablecoin space, and it does feel like this time, given the regulatory environment and sort of what's going on with the numerous acquisitions, this feels like it feels like the technology and regulation are kind of colliding, and we can do things we wanted to do for this. So that's sort of
awesome.
Solve.
I think I always tell founders when I talk to founders, I'm like, you really want to get married to the problem as opposed to the solution, and so to be able to articulate the problem, like, okay, this, until I see a world where this is fixed, like there's no rest for me. So I'm going to keep going and chipping at it. So good to see how we be able to articulate that, and to do that in a way, like you say, in such a time that now what seems to be like headwinds are now becoming tailwinds in terms of like, again, infrastructure and regulation as well. How about, so maybe we'll go to YO then. So make it easy for everyone. So YO, you've moved from carbon, again, that's again, consumer lending, business lending, and again, your background in UN policy work to founding Duplo. What made you believe like B2B payment was the next frontier worth tackling? I mean, to see it that way, you could solve any problem in the world, but you chose to solve this one. Why?
Yeah, really happy to be here, Yele Oyekola, and looking forward to the discussion. So I think a lot of my work at the UN focused on supporting governments on the continent with policies that encourage economic growth. And a few things I saw as blockers when I would go, travel for work and speak to different policymakers was things around access to credit, how money moved between and within countries on the continent, and just how archaic a lot of businesses or business was done in Africa. And this led to a rabbit hole on what was possible with better technology. And so I left the UN to join or to start a company called Jula. And that was the trenches, being a first-time founder. And the focus then was trying to enable consumers get access to credit through the merchants. So very similar to what Klarna is doing right now, Affirm, Afterpay, all these different guys. So I was trying to solve for the credit leg, and some of the ideas I had when I left the UN. That failed. And then I joined Carbon as well, and that was heavily focused on lending. So I built our BNPL product called Carbon Zero at the time. Yeah, I was there very briefly, and then then started Duplo. And in regards to Duplo, when you think of B2B payments in Africa, there's just a massive chunk of problems. The big gap I saw was that businesses were still moving money manually. How you chase suppliers, invoicing was, pen and paper. Fraud and theft abounded as well with B2B payments. And when you think of this at scale, it just holds a lot of businesses back. So yeah, we started to fix this. How we can get paid, I think, is a massive blocker to how we can grow the continent. So a lot of my focus was, how do I make an impact on a continental scale? And through the businesses I've worked in and worked on, I'm where I am right now at Duplo.
Yeah. I know I sent all of you talking points and guides and all, but I have to, based on your answers, I might go some tangent way, so please bear with me on this. So you said something, you said, I started Jula and then I failed and then I move on. And I think that's what I said, as we hear a lot from people saying I failed. Like, if I can count them out on my hand. I've had an African father say I failed. But my question really is around, like, just because I think people who are building and thinking maybe it's time to call it quits and go again, have to be able to like get to that point where it says, okay, it's time. And of course, it's different from every founder, but then if you can go back to the time for you where you were at July and said, okay, time to close shop and move on. Any like any can you just take us back to that time so we could, if there are any places that we could pick from that?
Honestly, nothing crazy. I just got homeless. that's really that's really what happened. But no, jokes aside, I think we ran July for about 2 years. We had raised at over $300,000, and just after COVID, the business died. I think as a founder, when it's over. I think it's I can't tell you more than that. You just know when it's over. When things just look very bleak. You're burnt out. You can't see any way forward anymore. The team members are done. And that's when it's time to cut it. So you can't really lie to yourself. But I think for me, it was just a case. I can't continue doing this. It's over. Let's call it quits. Yeah.
Do you think you made that call at the right time, or too early, or too late?
Too late. Too late. Yeah.
So going back again, what would have been different?
I think that's a very good question. I think as a founder, you have to be very honest with yourself. I think you have to be actually solving a problem, actually solve a solution, have a solution that actually solve a massive problem. I think with Jula, we're focusing heavily on the solution, and not the itself. So I think when you're married to the solution, you just you don't focus on the big picture. So I think that's really what happened. I think if we're focused on the problem, some of the things we did won't have been done the way we did it at the time. And if I was focused on the problem as well, I'll really say that what we had as a solution wasn't really ideal, and I'll call it quits much earlier. So I think that's really the long and short of it.
That's a good mental model to have. Yeah. So again, I opted on the problem, and is it solving the solution? I opted on the problem, and the solution is solving that problem. Why I opted on the solution that you're like, oh, like problem is not on the focus. Yeah, that's actually a good one. Thank you so much. Again, I know those are not prep questions, but yeah, those prompts really help to really go deeper on these things. Last but not least, Segun, on this round. So you you didn't run out of money. You actually got an exit with Amplify Pay, which again everybody's now. I mean, everybody's looking for exits, like we say. And you could have joined a big fintech to be like some, I don't know, board member or something. They could have gone the investor route, but you chose to build again. What each did Anchor scratch that the first round or the first startup did not?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nubi.
Sorry. Before you go ahead, can you relate to that meme that says, "I don't want peace. I like problems." Well, go ahead.
In that perspective, but yeah, I'm very excited to be here. It's a pleasure. I typically don't do a lot of this. Maybe I should learn to do more of it. Unlike the two Yeles, they look very good on camera. Same thing with you, Nubi. So Segun Adeyemi, co-founder and CEO of Anchor. So I think mine is a little bit different because Anchor is actually more of a continuation of like what we were building sort of at Amplify. And, just to give some background story, right? We're building basically payment gateway focused on recurring payment at Amplify. And this was, during those days. And actually that was around the time I met Yele when he just moved back to Nigeria then. So that was like, way back, we're using, in fact, our first office at Amplify was actually the Carbon, which is interesting that, the Yele YO used to work at Carbon. It was actually Carbon's, the founders of Carbon, they had Neo Cafe. Exactly. And then Neo Cafe had a building. And we had just come back from Ghana, myself and my co-founder Maxwell, and we needed an office. They said, "Oh, we have this space upstairs." So Yele used to actually be one of, I think at the time he had not like started something. So he used to be around, we used to chat a lot about. So it's very, impressive and inspiring to see all of the things that Yele had gone ahead to do. But anyway, that's a digress. Exactly, full circle moment. But yeah, what we're doing at Amplify was essentially focused on recurring and subscription payments. So, if you live outside the continent, maybe in more developed markets, direct debit was a thing. So if you take a loan, pay later then, which is Carbon, they were trying to pioneer the idea of like retail credit, being very important. So we were basically helping to do collections in a recurrent basis. We were supporting some other subscription businesses. So that was our entry pathway into payments. But what had happened is that, at some point, we very quickly realized that, for us to make the kind of impact we wanted to make, that space that we were operating in was not big enough. And that was at a time where, the industry was getting to a new phase. This was 2018, 2019. This was when the Paystags, the Florals of this world were raising a lot of money, gotten a lot of licenses, we were scaling. And I think at the time when we exited, about 60% of our business was mostly Carbon. So it was like a natural evolution. But then there were a lot of learnings, and hopefully we can get to touch some of them at this point. That basically led to like, they had made the offer like 2 or 3 times that, oh, guys, this is a natural home for you guys. We've been with you since we started. We are the biggest customer. Come and do this internally, So it was almost natural. But I think just to answer the question directly in terms of first, what connects everything together, I would say something that I care very deeply about is infrastructure, and I also care about access. And infrastructure doesn't just cut across, financial services, which is where I play right now. I think about infrastructure a lot, even for me. What is fundamental to our continent, which is Africa. So, like, I think very deeply about like infrastructure, things that are more like at the macro level, which is maybe why I don't see myself starting a consumer company, because it's just not my person. That's not the way I think. So there's that part. And there's also the part around like access, because I feel like if you want to drive true innovation, there needs to be tools, infrastructure, things that actually make those innovations possible. So if you wanted to do credit with just simple recurring payments with cards, it sort of unlocked and opened up the retail credit market. That is now like a massive thing, you know, so many big businesses in that category, as an example. So it's a similar trend in terms of what we are doing in HoaQ.
Okay.
We're basically providing infrastructure that enables, you know, the builders, the innovators, the next generation of founders to be able to basically like, you know, launch their products, provide access to, you know, very simple, basic financial services. And by the way, I actually did go and join a big company. I just realized very quickly that that was not the way to go. So I actually joined the company, but maybe that's a story for another day.
All right. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, we have lots of questions to answer, so I will encourage that we can keep our answers as content as possible, so we can just cover as much ground as possible. But what that I'm hearing across board is that it seems to be like about just enablement. How do you build infrastructure? How do we give access? Whether it's consumer, whether it's B2B or B2C. And this is very, very, I'm thinking about that, I'm like, wow, like CC Hub days, everybody was building like application layer and then forced to go back to infrastructure layer. But now we're thinking infrastructure first before, again, people come build on top of that. So it's really, it's really a different nuance that we see with builders now. So that's really amazing. So again, back to you, YB. Let's maybe just pick a few like themes that we think, again, perhaps other founders on this call can actually like learn from. So team, capital, and building. So talk about team with you, because I know you've actually been able to attract very amazing team members, whether it's from your venture play to what you're building as a founder. I mean, I've read about your co-founders as well. So phenomenal way of attracting talent. So what's been your philosophy around just, again, building teams around the vision that you have to execute? And how do you build that team to help deliver in a way that is actually, again, very very with good velocity, so that you're just evolving what you're building, experimenting fast, and just shipping. So talents and then velocity. Just how's your philosophy like evolved in those two areas as a founder?
Yeah, so I think that when I think about Bundle, I think with Bundle, I probably built it in a much more intentional way, if I'm being honest. So with Nestcoin, and this is why I think of Onboard as like a third chapter in a way. With Nestcoin, you know, that was the peak of the crypto bull market in 2021. We raised a lot of capital, and you know, investors were literally just like, okay, go figure out this Web3 opportunity in Africa. And if I'm being honest, you know, a lot of the goals or the visions that we had for where we thought the technology would evolve towards didn't really play out, right? So if you look at, let's say, AI, for instance, there was no AI when Web3 kind of began to, you know, get hot from an investment perspective. And the applications and sort of adoption and use cases for AI compared to like the broader Web3 space, you know, you can't really compare and contrast. I definitely found it easier from a talent perspective the second time around. You know, but my biggest lesson actually is you need to have a lot of clarity around, you know, the problem you're trying to solve. And ideally, you don't want to be the first to be trying to solve that problem, right? I think that they're the closest thing I can use my experience building Nestcoin and sort of the precursor to Onboard is I imagine this is what it felt like when the early e-commerce founders were building in Nigeria, or the early kind of like fintech guys pre-InterSwitch were building in Nigeria and Africa, right? Because you didn't have the infrastructure, regulation was crazy, there was no playbook and things like that, right? So I think, with Bundle, and I didn't talk about sort of the context of Bundle, but we built one of the first and easiest ways to buy crypto in Nigeria. We had about 1.4 million users. And so that market took off crazily until the government sort of, put on this regulatory restriction that collapsed the market, then went into P2P. And I think now with the regulatory environment improving globally, we are seeing like that pick up again. So even on our case, we had to build all of our infrastructure from the ground up. And now we are seeing companies that are building infrastructure that are just like, all right, thank you, give us your API, we will integrate this, which now makes it a lot easier to do what we're doing today versus 10 months ago, 12 months ago, where we had to build every single thing from scratch. So it's funny, there are a bunch of on-chain / stablecoin startups in Africa that, they come sometimes pitch to us, but we're like, we actually have this infrastructure that they're offering to fintechs and businesses. So sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I should just go the infrastructure route and free stuff. But yeah, it's been an interesting building in an emerging, a very sort of emerging industry, versus building in a established industry where you are not the first mover or the first entrant. Like if I was doing this again, I would 100% choose an established industry, because somebody has gone in front of you with a bunch of machetes and cutlasses, and they paved the road. You don't have an expressway, but you have some. You can see that one guy went that way, and then this lion ate him. So I'm going to go this way. But when you are the first, you're just in boot, and that's very hard. So
let's segue that to Yele Duplo, because again, the point being around just navigating regulation. I'm just curious. I mean, you've been on the policy side, and then you became a builder. What have you learned about just navigating regulation without slowing down on innovation? Just pretty much navigating regulation as a builder.
I can only speak for the CBK and the CBN. So CBK being the Central Bank of Kenya. Typically, what I've seen is that most regulators actually mean well. And in Nigeria, it might not seem so, but we've seen that they actually mean well. They're just heavily focused on safety, ensuring customer trust, and just customer funds are safe. And these things take time. It's a collaborative process. But one thing we've done at Duplo is that we've learned to treat regulators as partners, not obstacles. Back to YB's points about infrastructure as well. Like even for us at Duplo, we've had to get multiple licenses. We've had to build out the entire stack ourselves as well. And it's not because guys like Segun are not doing a good job. It's just that there's just so much to build that requires, regulatory blockers and, infrastructure as well. So we need licenses for that. So when we were starting Duplo, the first thing we actually went for was to get a PSP before we even had a product, for example. And we had to let the central bank know that this is what we're trying to do. Duplo's product initially was quite new in the market. So yes, we spent a lot of time with the central bank. Now we have 4 licenses in Nigeria. And so yeah, we take that very seriously.
Can I ask, because again, I'm just curious, because again, a startup, without startups, why spend on licenses, go partner, go do this, go do that. And I'm just curious, your framework as you build, and this again, of course, is very subjective and from your experience, how do you go from, partner versus acquire license? How do you go from, partner up until threshold X and then acquire license? How do you, just thinking, because again, it's not cheap, it's not easy to do licensing. This thing take time and it also costs money as well. So just any meta framework around partner versus, or just again, framework around, license acquisition or partnership?
Yeah, I think from a commercial perspective, we had a privilege that we had to raise some money in the very early days of Duplo, so we were actually able to acquire some licenses. But for us thinking long term, we're heavily focused on how do we increase our margins as a business. The margins in payments and then very thin. So for us, it was like, how do we actually own the entire stack and own multi-margin as well as a business? If you're venture backed, you have to grow into the valuation you've been given, and that requires you to have high profit margins and high, gross margins as well. So that was really for us the rationale. Secondly, as well, we have a lot of fintechs in Nigeria, but the infrastructure is still very early. So we're trying to ensure reliability as well. So Duplo's plan was to focus on enterprise businesses in Nigeria, and those guys require reliability and stability as a product. So for us, that was another thing we're trying to do as well. So we didn't want to be partners there and completely having to depend on them to guarantee our reliability to our customers. So I would say those are the major reasons why we went to, spend our central bank and actually acquire this license earlier.
Okay. Any just 1, 2 lessons that you've gotten, read, like looking back now on your license journey, just 1 or 2 things you've actually taken away. So okay, if I'd known this, I'll be better off to navigate this.
Yeah. I think honestly, I would have definitely partnered early on in the first year. It just takes a long time to get a license to actually build that entire stack yourself. So that set us back about 18 months. So it's more of it's an investment for the long term. And because we have this high valuations and we're raising money, you have to show workings, for lack of a better word, very early on as well. So I wish we actually spent time partnering with guys like Segun early on in the early days. But so far so good. I think we've been able to recoup that time.
Okay. Segun, many founders burn out post exits. People say, I never want to do this again. And even myself, I've founded a company. I don't think I plan to again. I'd rather cheer people on who have the guts to do it again. So well done, guys, cheering for you. But yeah, how do you sustain energy? How do you sustain conviction to go at it a second time? Because it's not a sprint. It's not a 1-year journey. It's not a 2-year journey. This is multi-decade journey sometimes. So how do you even sustain that energy and conviction to go again, especially on the back of an exit? Therapy.
To be fair, it wasn't like I didn't try to not start again. I just realized that I have my own views, and sometimes those views can be very, very strong around how things would evolve, how things need to be done. So like I said, after the exit, I took some time off, did so many normal things that, normal people would do, go and get married, take a break, those kind of stuff, right? So, and then I actually was in Cape Town when I learned about Jumo. I actually didn't know about Jumo. I was in Cape Town, and then they said, "Oh, we want to go to Nigeria." I said, let's see now. Let me help you people go to Nigeria. So it wasn't the plan. Even though I know that the things I wanted to do revolve around things that are very fundamental to me, infrastructure, things that have to do with how do we enable people on the continent, how do we drive prosperity on the continent. But I actually wasn't going to just jump straight into it. So for me, if you have a personal drive and you're real to yourself and you actually believe in what you're doing, you're going to sort of almost find yourself back into the journey. And that was really the trajectory for me, because what led to it was I had my own theses and views around how I felt like structure should be built for the continent. And where I was working at the time, they also had their own strategies and their own views around how they wanted to do that as well. And I just felt, okay, I need to back my own and belief, and it aligns with what I want to do as a person. So for me, I think the driving force is around just knowing yourself, because it is very hard. It is very hard, but there's just things that would happen. There are milestones you reach. There are things that are possible because of what you're building. that gives you the confidence that, okay, this is what, and also it helps if you're just not a very great employee as well. So if you know that, it's going to be very hard for you to just sit somewhere. You're also a very restless person. So, so I think it's just a combination of those things. Like if you have a fundamental drive, then it's inevitable.
Yeah, bet on yourself, back yourself. Yeah, makes sense. YB, you made a recent decision to like expose what is termed the messy middle in building in public. Just we can unpack that, like why now and how are you going about it, and like what will be different this time around versus how you built in the past. I can give context more to if folks want to follow that journey as well.
Yeah, so I think over the last 2 weeks I've been creating more sort of video content.
I think the work you have to do is not enough.
It's been so the backstory is actually that when I left medical school, I wanted to go into film, and somehow I realized that I wanted to build like an online BET for Africa. That was my first idea. So I was like, oh, to build this media company, I had to learn how to code and design. Then I learned that, and I just kind of went back to media. So it's always been like a passion of mine to sort of explore. And similar to like what Segun said, my sort of background has always been like trying to do things early. So probably one of the first webinars in Nigeria, email newsletters when I was working at Starter. I was very early on like social media and Twitter and all this stuff. And I personally believe that like, the future of building businesses is founder-led, and people don't want to connect with, especially on the consumer side, not B2B, but on the consumer side, people don't want to connect with a faceless kind of like corporate brand. So as a founder, to create trust and to sort of get people who are curious about what you're building, but they've not yet sort of gotten your product, it's a way to sort of carry them along. And to be honest, genuinely, like when I decided to write my story of the last 4 years, I mean, Nubi, you knew me. When you knew me, did I have white hair in my beard, right? Like this is from some insane amounts of stress and all the things that one had to go through over the last 4 years. Whether it's like surviving FTX, where the founder is in jail, to collaborating with Coinbase and raising capital from them, to having to leave Nigeria when sort of the whole stablecoin and Binance thing went crazy, even though I'd not been at Binance for almost like 4 years, and just a whole lot of other stuff. So I also made some mistakes myself. Like when I built Bundle, I'd invested in about 50 companies at this time, right? And we went from like 0 to 400K in revenue in 3 months, right? And we had 1 million users. And so when you're raising for your second company and it's a bull market, it's like imagine raising in the .com bubble. Your ego and what you think you can do and achieve like is 100x, right? So a lot of things that with Nestcoin was just like insane. So I've had these experiences, and I'm trying to also just share so that folks can learn from my mistakes, and I can also figure out Onboard. The idea of building a digital bank for global professionals is not a new idea, right? So building it in public with our potential users allows us to do something that I don't think anyone has like done before. So it's an experiment. So yeah.
And how can one follow along with that? What's the best way to track along with that?
So I post on Twitter, which is sort of like my main social network. Also on Instagram and LinkedIn. And then on my to-do list today was like open TikTok and YouTube. So I'm going to be posting like everything. It's been an interesting sort of experience, like learning how to create content and generally it's just about vulnerability and being honest and
Yeah.
open about
I think
what.
I think you and Joe are the only founders I know that are on TikTok. So all the best. Okay. Yeah, and then just to you, Yele Duplo. I guess my question for you, maybe like just thinking about, so you talk about like capital there, bull and bull and what was the one? Bear markets and all. How did you approach, or how did your approach to raising capital and growth even changed between your first time and your second time around? Especially in a tighter funding climate, how are you guys thinking about just capital allocation and just even investor relations and things like that? And how has that evolved? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the difference. We always make, myself and Segun and a group of founders just keep talking about this, and it's just crazy the difference, 2021, 2022 to 2025 and 2024. I think, like what you said, investors were the ones chasing you, like, they'll be in your emails just begging to invest in your company. And now I think a lot of us have been humbled, which I think is a good thing as well, because there was a lot of hype on the continent. But if I was a second-time founder, if I was fundraising for Duplo from scratch today, I think it'd be very important to put yourself in the investor's shoes when fundraising. Like, what would you objectively like to see? Would you actually want to back this team, the idea and the opportunity itself? So I think that frame would give you a very good sense of where you might have some gaps as a business, as an idea, as a founding team. So I think that would be the first thing. When I started my first company, I had no strategy as to how to fundraise. I was just like, sending outbounds to investors. I was going for conferences, hoping I would see investors. And this is not a bad thing because it increases your surface area, but it's a very, very low, the ROI is very little. So I think right now, what really helps to grow is that, things that I really focus on was just having a track record as a founder. So even though I came from a very good logo, which was the UN, it wasn't tech. So I had to build a new network from scratch. So having that track record, maybe going to a good school, working in a fast-growing startup in that same problem you're trying to solve for going forward. Having a great team as well. I think one thing that founders don't do that we should do more is just trying to validate our hypothesis early on. And you just be honest with other founders. So I think this really, really helped Duplo and it really helped us raise this time around. But I think, just be an investor's shoes. Would you actually back yourself? To actually allocate this funds effectively.
Yeah. I think I hear more and more of that these days, where again, like just even taking the time to understand a fund's dynamic, like how much have they, like where have they raised from, where are they deploying, how much they've deployed, and what will make you up, like is there a, like startup VC fit here, and even helps you even better even tell like who you should be speaking to and not wasting time in some conversations as well. I think like you're kind of like privileged to have sort of both sides of the table. So I wonder if there's even some, I don't know how founders get to practice, but I just wonder if there's even some kind of like resource that could help founders just better understand fund dynamics and just even better position themselves as well. I don't know, maybe we could even ask now, how have you perhaps figured out to be better founders who have investor view on your fundraise?
Honestly, I think one thing you realize when you fundraise, a lot of investors actually have, I don't want to say this out of there's no clear strategy how some investors actually invest. It's a lot of, it's a lot of people just follow on. So I think, and this is just me being honest as a founder, there's no clear thesis, there's no clear, it's just, okay, well, we like this founder, and maybe another investor has backed this founder as well. So I think one thing I'll actually really focus on is just a lot of investors talk to each other. So ensure that every experience you have with a VC is an amazing experience for that VC, because that would basically be, that news would go to the next investor as well. But try and focus on, an investor, what they put on their website about, their thesis and all that jazz. I don't think it's, I've noticed that that's not really the case. A lot of investors just, they follow the hype, what's fancy. So honestly, just try to make the business as fancy as possible. Of course, having the right metrics as well.
Okay.
Also, as a founder, you have to look good on paper. It's just the truth, did you go to a good school? Did you work in a great company? A lot of the founder friends that I have right now that have done very well with fundraising are guys that maybe they were working as a PM in a great fintech prior to that, solving the right problems, that solving the same problems they're solving for before, or maybe they're like, well educated. So I think those things actually really matter to investors very on, because that's how you de-risk an investment.
Yeah.
Help.
I think last question for you, Segun, and Yele, feel free to chip in as well. You guys went to YC after, so not for your first startup, but for your current startups. So as repeat founders, people might say, I mean, you've learned all you had to learn in your first startup. Why are you going to an accelerator again? What was the rationale? Again, we'll start with from you, Segun. What was the rationale to say, oh, I still have a lot to learn here, or there? What value did you see in YC? And how would you have other founders think about like accelerators, even if they are repeat founders?
Yeah, I think, well, most founders, they go to YC first, at least for African founders. I don't think it's first the learning, if we're being very honest. I think it's first the money. Especially now that they're giving, 500K. One of the things we say to ourselves, like, again, YC founder groups, is like, this will probably be the easiest phase you're going to experience, because when you're in YC, there come some funds that only invest in YC companies, as an example. Like, literally, that's their thesis, just for YC companies. So you want to just give yourself the best chance. So any advantage you can have, you want to take it. There are people who have built billion-dollar companies, exited, and still went to YC. Because what it gives you is, first, of course, the money. I think the money and the fundraise is unquestionable, but beyond that is also a lot of things. There's the network, in terms of like just the access. There are a lot of things we're doing now that are mostly on the global side, that being a part of that network has just been very helpful. So there's also that network, there's a lot of like, they've seen a lot. So there's a lot of founders there, there's a lot of like the partners and all. And then on top of that is also now the learning, the insight around what great looks like is not something that you can easily just buy anywhere. So seeing things being done at a certain level, at a certain quality. So, during our batch, I remember we had, the founders of Airbnb, the founders of Stripe, they'll come talk to you. There's first the part of, it builds confidence, because it just, when you're in person talking to these guys and you're realizing that actually, this man doesn't have 2 heads, it's like it just tells you something. Like, they also have normal fears that you have, they also have things they're trying to figure out about their business. They also have things, a lot of the things we see from outside, you think that they have it all figured out. But when you talk to them in person and then you ask them questions, they're like, it's something we don't think we're doing well. We're also looking for ways to improve on it. So it just gives you confidence that, okay, even billion-dollar companies started from somewhere, and we also that this is what is possible. Like, these are, So I don't know that just looking at the impact of like a YC in our entire ecosystem, I don't think that you can oversell like the value. And I think it's valuable to you, either you're a first-time, second-time, third-time founder. If you get a chance to be a part of it, it's not the only way to succeed. It's not the only accelerator. There's so many companies that have done exceedingly well in Africa and globally. We didn't go to YC. Yele didn't go to YC.
Well, you did get money from YC for.
No, I think it is what.
What did you get money from YC?
I mean, Mike Sabol is an investor, wasn't he?
Okay, fair enough.
So in a way, you got money.
You knew,
that's Micro Traction, right?
Micro Traction.
Yeah. What's funny is that Michael has actually asked me to do, like, when I raised for Nestcoin, Michael was like, I should do YC, and I was like, do I really need to do YC? But to be honest, like, I would still do YC, right? At this point, YC is, especially if you're doing B2B, the network that you have, it's like getting into Harvard. The network that you have from like being part of this community of 3,500 founders who are usually like majority of them will be badasses in some way, is worth it. So
Okay.
I'm still a
All
white.
right, so apply to YC, guys. Cool. We are almost out of time, so I think we have like 3 minutes left before I hand it over back to Folake. So I'll just ask like maybe like, because we have some audience questions, but I'll ask them in format of like 1-word answers. So again, guys, 1 word. Don't expand beyond the 1 word, and all three of you can answer the question. So if you're hiring people to join your team, what is 1 trait you look out for in them? Just 1 word, like a trait you look out for people that you hire to your team.
Great.
Okay, Segun?
Agency.
Yele? YB?
1 word.
1 word, yeah. Great agency.
Ownership.
All right, awesome. And then second question will be, what is 1 area you believed you are 10x better because you are you're a repeat founder? So what area I can say, okay, I used to suck at this, but now I am 10 times better because I've done this before? It could be communication, it could be writing emails, it could be just anything you think you've just drastically become better at.
Investor relations.
Segun?
I was gonna say.
I
Yeah,
think it's intuition.
Okay, got check, got sense. Yele?
pain threshold.
Threshold. All right, pay threshold. And the last one, if there's 1 book that you think any African founder should pick up and read tomorrow, that would likely may or may not change that trajectory, but you just would vouch for it, 1 book or 1 resource, what would it be?
Happy to go first on one. Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go. I'll jump after you.
Okay, so I'm sure the guys would call like a startup book, so I wouldn't go that route. I would recommend a book called 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom. I recommend it
Types of wealth.
And everybody has the same feedback. It would change the way you think about how you want to design and live your life. So, well, Joe says excellent book. So,
yeah. Awesome. 5 Types of Wealth. Okay, we'll put the link in the channel for if you want to get it. Yele, Duplo?
Yeah, the book that actually changed my life really early on was the biography of Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. So I highly recommend that. That's for my life. Yeah.
All right. Segun?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would go for I won't go for a book actually. I'll go for essays.
Okay.
So, Paul Graham's essays on the site. That thing, when I discovered that page, no, that was like everything changed. Just go and read everything.
All right.
Everything.
Read everything. Yeah, I think I did the founder mode one. I think that was the most recent one I read. But yeah, that was interesting. Okay. We are almost out of time, so I wish we have like one more hour to go. But I want to say a big thank you, YB, Yele, Segun, for joining us. And really wishing you guys all the very best on your journey. And hopefully to continue to hear of your escapades and all. But yeah, thanks so much for coming, sharing, and looking forward to being in touch as well. So back to you, Folake, as you round us off.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nubi. Thank you to our speakers, Segun, Yele, and Yele B. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super grateful. This session will be uploaded on YouTube, so if you need to share with your network, you can just get it from my YouTube and share with them. But thank you guys so much for joining us today, and thank you, Nubi, as well, for the great questions. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
No,
Cheers.
please feel free to listen to our updates as well. This is not the end of the session. We will just be running through our updates quickly. To get into the deals, we currently have 3 deals that are closing for those that are members of HoaQ. I'm sure you've seen the memos, the Meet the Founder sessions, you've seen the decks of these deals. These deals will be closing by next week, unfailingly. So if you've committed, please feel free to go and make your payment. And if you want to commit, you can just log into your dashboard and make your commitment. Next slide. New deals are coming soon. So we currently have a list of quality deals to share with you in the coming week. We're super excited about these deals and we can't wait for you to read the memo. So for GoBeba is one of our portfolio companies. We were also interested in investing in them again. So this is their seed round. We have Timon coming on. We have Credit Check. We have Nyla Bank as well coming on board this next set of deals. Next slide, please. Events. So next week we are having another session with Borderless in conversations with business of pre-loved fashion. So if you're interested in fashion or you would like to invest in a fashion company, you don't want to miss this session. So you can just check out Borderless links and you would find the link to that particular session. We would also be in Kigali in November for the North Skin Africa Week. So if you're around during this session, feel free to check us out. We would also be having a presentation during North Skin and a fireside chat. You don't want to miss those sessions. Next slide. Fund. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd spoken about our club, and I will just share a little bit about our fund. So HoaQ Ventures Fund is a $5 million fund with the aim to invest in founders who are building tech and tech-enabled startups for Africa and its diaspora. If you're interested in learning more about the HoaQ Fund, feel free to reach out to Yele Bademosi, who is the managing partner for the fund. And if you need to read about the fund first, you can just go on our website and read about what we are doing with our fund. Next slide. Yes. So if you really enjoyed this session and you want to follow us, please go to our website. On our website, you see all our socials, our LinkedIn, our Twitter, our Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. So we upload this session on YouTube. You can also watch all our previous sessions over the past couple of years, as well as some other videos that we have for you to educate you about what's going on around you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This was super good. I can't wait to see you again next month.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. How long after?
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. See you soon.